what do we want our sport to look like in 5 years, 10 years? And what do we need to do now to make sure that happens? And I think back to, whether it's television and the exposure there, a lot of the decisions made to line those things up to make sure our game is fun to watch and fun to play so people want to gravitate toward it.
At the field, in your car, or on the couch, get your fast pitch info from the coach's mouth. Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast. Jay and I are here today looking at a beautiful day outside and looking at some great stuff coming in from over the weekend. Jay, did your daughter's team play this weekend?
Yeah, they did, Ken. They did it. They did a great job. It was a nice tournament. It was held, everybody got a chance to play, be a part of it. I think at that 11U age is super important for all of them to keep, rotating kids in and out, batting all the kids through the lineup. Those are things that are important at that age. So everybody feels a part of the game. And they did really well. And that's the thing, letting these kids play, letting them show you what they can do. The wins and losses really honestly don't matter. It's more about the development and the growth and keeping the kids, excited and happy to come back and play. I think at this age is the most important thing. So
that was very Ted Lasso of you.
Yeah, true. Very true. Ted Lasso's great. I mean, we can all learn a little bit from the Ted Lasso series. So I think that's especially as coaches, I think that's huge. Yep. How about you? What did you do this weekend? Do you have any lessons or work with any kids?
Yeah, I had some lessons yesterday. It was a great day for it. It was funny because it started out, where I had a hoodie on, kind of took that off as I was going along. I was just in the raglan shirt. And even by then I was thinking, I'm starting to regret the long pants. Probably should have worn shorts and just dealt with it early on. But I went out to Illinois State out there in Bloomington yesterday to watch some of my kids throw. DePaul played Illinois State, so I have a picture at Illinois State, and I've got 3 at DePaul. And I wore jeans, and I'm like, man, this is a mistake. By the third inning, I was like, I should have brought a pair of shorts. I was hot, and so it was definitely a warm one yesterday. But I'm so happy for the fall weather here. Yep.
But
yeah, me too.
Enough of us rambling. Why don't you introduce or give some information about this amazing guest that we have here? I mean, it's not every day you're surrounded by Hall of Famers, but this is pretty awesome. So let people know a little information about this amazing guest we have, Ken.
I sure will, although a little information is probably not exactly a good description for what I'm going to do. But I do think it's safe to say that today's guest has directly or at least indirectly had an impact on everyone listening to this podcast today. The Charter Oak, Iowa native has been a player, coach, broadcaster, speaker, and author, as well as serving in various leadership roles in the National Fastpitch Coaches Association. More on that in a bit. After a very successful playing career as an infielder at the University of Iowa, she began her coaching journey there as a graduate assistant under the legendary Gail Blevins. She then went on to coach under another legend, Carol Hutchins, at the University of Michigan, before being tapped to launch the softball program at the Big Ten's Purdue University in Indiana. While at Purdue, she led the brand new program to 21 wins in its first season and went on to average 32 wins per season during her tenure, while also assuring that every player who competed all 4 years graduated. From there, our guest went on to coach at Louisville, where she helped guide the Cardinals to 9 NCAA Division I regional appearances, while setting school records twice for total wins. While she was coaching there, she became involved with the NFCA as well, serving as board president, past president, fourth vice president, and Division I representative at various points in her coaching career. In 2007, she left coaching ranks to take on a larger role in the sport, first as interim executive director at the NFCA, and then becoming its official executive director in 2016. During that time, she has led the NFCA to an incredible number of achievements,
growing its ranks significantly, expanding membership among travel and high school coaches, acquiring the popular Mary Nutter softball clinics that were held across the country, overseeing the launch of the National Fastpitch Coaches College, and expanding the organization's annual convention to securing record-setting attendance in 2024. She also helped the organization successfully weather the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, taking advantage of technology to keep things moving forward and better deliver the organization's many services to all its members. A member of the NFCA's Hall of Fame class of 2023, today she serves as the CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm From the Coach's Mouth podcast welcome to the amazing Carol Bruggeman.
Welcome, Carol.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. And any podcast that starts out talking about Ted Lasso, I am all in. So I love Ted Lasso, and I agree with you, Jay. Just so many lessons and messages there, and it was just a lot of fun. So thank you for that warm welcome and introduction.
Well, we're so happy to have you here, Carol. Both Jay and I have talked to you in the past and hung out with you a bit, and we always enjoyed that. So it's great that you're taking a little bit of time to chat with us today. We know you're very busy.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join. And I just want to say thanks to both of you. Yes, I have had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last several years. And it's just so fun to see that as long as you've been in the sport, you're a lot like me. As long as you've been in the sport, you still have this passion, this joy, this energy around it. And anytime I can spend time with two people like you who really have that passion, that energy, just an exciting day.
Oh my gosh. You can't see it if you're just listening to this, but we're blushing.
Absolutely.
All right, Carol. So we do want to get started with this. So my first question is, how does a nice girl from Charter Oak, Iowa end up the chief executive officer at the premier association for Fastpitch softball?
Wow, we all certainly have our journeys, and they all start somewhere. And I feel very blessed to have started my journey in really small town Western Iowa. And why I feel so blessed is I feel like everyone has their roots and their wings throughout their journey, and that's where I really got my roots. Just wonderful people in that part of the world. As they say in Iowa, there's no strangers, just friends you haven't met yet. And I feel like that kind of mentality has just stuck with me really my entire career. And just learning the values that were instilled at that time in my life in that part of the country, just hard work, learning accountability. You earn anything you receive in life, and owe a lot of that to my parents, of course, but also just the people that I was around and growing up. So I also feel blessed to grow up in Iowa because at that time, I went to elementary school and high school, elementary school in the 70s, high school in the 80s. And back then, Iowa was really a leader. They still are in terms of just women's equity. Quick example to bring that to life. My entire high school career, which was in the early 80s to mid 80s, I wore metal cleats in high school. And it wasn't even a big thing because, the boys baseball team did, the girls softball team did. It wasn't a big deal. And when I went to school at the University of Iowa, when I was a freshman, I realized very quickly I was the only freshman, or any freshman from the state of Iowa, but I was the only freshman at that particular year from Iowa. And everyone, the first couple practices, all my colleagues, my teammates as freshmen were just talking about their cleats and wearing metal cleats and, oh, this is going to feel so awkward and so weird. And they were tripping around and, oh, we're going to get hurt and all the things. And I was like, what is happening here? But that was just the philosophy from the state of Iowa, from the educational components all the way down to athletics components. There was a huge sense of equity, like what we're going to do for one, we're going to do for all. And so the longer I'm on this journey, the more I appreciate that back in the days of small town Western Iowa and just growing up in the state of Iowa, that it was just the way it was. You treated people fairly, you treated people equitably. And, I always felt like I had a lot of opportunities to play sports and to do things. And so, that led me to a love of sports. And even though I had a business degree at the University of Iowa, and I still rely on that, and I still enjoy that part of it, my real passion, my real love was in in athletics and sports. And so that led to the coaching journey, which then led to being the CEO of this organization. So a little bit of a long answer, but I do feel like that just those roots and that foundation really set the tone really for the entire journey.
So Carol, I want to talk to you about that just real quick. I want to ask you a question. So we all know this, the passion for softball was there. So when did that start for you? Kind of like what age? And then, were you a multi-sport athlete back then? And how was it balancing those things back in the day back then?
Sure. I was definitely a multi-sport athlete. Whatever sport was in season, I was playing it. Or if my brother was, I have a 4-year, my brother is 4 years older than me, hung out with him a lot. But I played basketball in high school, never met a shot I didn't like. And fortunately, a lot of them did go through the net, not all of them, but I loved basketball. But at a 5'5" on 5 feet 5 inches on a good day, my career choice of going softball was probably wise versus playing with the 6'5" young ladies in basketball. But I loved basketball. I ran track in high school. Believe it or not, I was a sprinter and a hurdler, and enjoyed that, and played a lot of softball as well. But really, I played golf, not competitively then, but whatever was happening, I was all in. And I still am a big believer in the multi-sport athlete. I know it's more challenging in this day and age, and the pressures to specialize early, and there's a lot of positives to that, but I still am a big believer in the multi-sport athlete and all of the leadership lessons it teaches you. If it's not your primary sport, how can you still contribute and lead and be a part of just your high school spirit and pride and all of those things, let alone just keeping your injuries down and training all parts of your body. But I was a multi-sport athlete. But when I first really got interested in softball, I owe a lot of that credit to my dad. He was a men's fast pitch umpire. And as you all know, in the Midwest, it's still very popular, boys and men's fast pitch softball. And I used to, I guess my dad was in charge of me, some of those nights, and I would follow him to the ballpark and had my orders where I could go and couldn't go, and where I could play and couldn't play. But I found myself just enamored with the game, watching these guys play and the way they pitch and the way they hit. Very fast-paced game, and spent a lot of time at the ballpark with that. And then when I had the chance to start playing some youth softball, very much was rec softball, very much was just, kind of the local towns in the area, but fell in love with it very quickly. And then when I got to high school, the career took off quite a bit, which then led me to the University of Iowa. But it was just a lot of fun. Softball has always been fun to me. I was drawn to it because of the fast pace of the sport and just the amount of athleticism it takes. But most importantly, I just thought it was fun to hit the ball and play defense and play a lot of positions and be outside. I really kind of live life outside. So just being outside was also a draw versus kind of staying inside with some of the indoor sports.
So what was it like playing at Iowa at that time? I mean, did you guys have your own field on campus, or did you have to go to a rec field?
Once again, I was very lucky. I when I started my career at the University of Iowa, that was the opening of the facility they still play in today. It's in Coralville, which is a suburb of Iowa City, just right down, right close to campus. And I remember the grand opening of that field. It's really a 4-field complex, but the University of Iowa's main field is one of those kind of spokes on the wheel of the fourplex. And so, yes, we had our own facility, and it's still in use today. And so, again, very, very lucky. We practiced right on campus. The biggest differences then was just the travel schedule. We didn't really take a lot of big trips to play then, even though we were Division I college athletics. We were playing outside of the Big Ten Conference, and of course within the Big Ten Conference, but it was more driving trips. Flying across the country was not really a thing then for all sports, let alone women's sports. But we had a chance to compete for the Big Ten championship and had a chance to make runs in the NCAA tournament and do all those sorts of things. Every team had the opportunity to do that, so it was really fun time to be a part of college athletics. Again, the longer this journey goes, the more I appreciate the opportunities I had when I was at school at the University of Iowa. and then chose to go to graduate school there. The athletic director at the time at the University of Iowa, who then became my graduate school academic advisor, was Dr. Christine Grant. And Dr. Christine Grant was really the kind of the mother of Title IX and what she did in college athletics. Again, the equity piece, when college sports went to 60-40, we're going to have 60% participation and then 40% participation, for women. Christine Grant said, that's not equal. We're going to go 50-50 at Iowa with participation. And she did. She made it work, So I had a great experience at the University of Iowa, very competitive environment. The AIAW was just phased out right before I came into the University of Iowa, so I always played under the NCAA. There was a lot of transition going on during that time, but also a lot of opportunities that opened up. So being around Gail Blevins, being around Christine Grant, just some, you mentioned it, Ken, when you introduced Gail Blevins, legendary. I mean, these are legends, and a big part of my journey was just being influenced by those mentors and kind of setting me on the path.
So I want to ask you, Carol, after you played there, you talked about becoming a graduate assistant. Did you know when your playing days were over, like, I want to be a coach? Is that what it was? And you just jumped right in, or was you were going to graduate school for something different, looking for a different career path?
Well, that's a great question. I feel like at some point in time, everybody comes to that fork in the road and you're like, well, am I going to do this or that? And that was really a fork in the road. I had a business degree from Iowa. I loved the business school there. I actually had a couple interviews for jobs, kind of business, accounting, finance jobs. And I remember going to the interviews and they went well, and was offered the opportunity to start a career there. And I just couldn't do it. I mean, who gets excited when it's like, here comes the auditor to your business? No one gets excited about that. And that's where everybody started at that time in the business world. And I just couldn't do it. I was drawn still towards sports, towards athletics. And when I remember visiting with my parents a little bit because I was really torn. I just finished this degree. I had these opportunities, but it just didn't feel right in my heart. And I remember them saying, well, just, why don't you go to grad school? You can never go wrong getting more education. Like, you can never go wrong, and it'll sort itself out. And they couldn't have been more right, because when I took the opportunity to go to graduate school, I chose a different route than business. I went into athletic administration, and coaching is actually my master's. I had the chance to coach every day with Gail Blevins, just really immersed myself in that sort of arena in terms of the curriculum, and then also just being around a lot of coaches. And from that point on, I just never looked back. It had just a great opportunity there to learn from Gail Blevins. And then I knew my fire was lit, that I wanted to be a collegiate coach, and on the rest is history.
So you found your passion there.
There is no doubt about it. Found the passion, and then that just led to being around a lot more amazing people like Carol Hutchins at the University of Michigan. I mean, Hutch is still a dear friend of mine today. And when I first had the opportunity to be, I was actually her first full-time assistant. And when I say that, I was her first full-time assistant, had a graduate degree at Iowa, and the salary, $12,000, as you all know all well when you took your first job somewhere. But I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I had a couple other jobs to make it happen. And at the time, Carol Hutchins was still the Carol Hutchins you know today. She just didn't have all those wins under her belt. And now she's the winningest coach in Division I history. That just springboarded a few more opportunities. You mentioned it, Ken, led to starting the program at Purdue, coming to the University of Louisville, having a lot of success on the field. And so just being able, I think coaching is really a very selfless profession. It's really not about you. It's about the lives you impact, and just watching them grow on the field and then watching them grow in life. And so that's really what led me to coaching and why it was such a fulfilling part of my career.
Carol, I want to ask you a question here that we didn't really send to you, but it's one that I think is very important too. I know you talk a lot about being under Hutch and working under her, and Gail gave you tremendous lessons but you also have a very good coaching tree as well too. I remember coming down there in 2014 I asked if I could come to a practice down there in Louisville, and you brought me out in the middle circle. And I met this team that had Brittany Duncan there, Whitney, who else was on the Jordan McNary. And I'm thinking those are three names that are Division I collegiate coaches just from that 2014 time when I was down there. And I'm sure you've had prior coaches when you were at Purdue and so on and so forth. But what is it like for you now, seeing a lot of your former players go on to be really successful high-level Division I coaches? What is that like for you?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And any player you coach, you just want them to be happy and fulfilled in their career, whatever that means for them. But yeah, when they make that choice, like, hey, I went through this experience and I think this is something I'm passionate about too. I don't want it to end, and I want to continue to give back. It's a lot of fun. I tell you what it's really done is it's really kept me very connected with those young ladies, very connected with all the players I've coached, but you just kind of have that special bond, or you'll get a note, after a big win or a, tough loss, or just like, what was this drill we did? This is what we need to do, but I can't remember how it goes. And I'll be like, all right, here we go. But you're right. Just, I think about Lacey Wood, who's now Lacey Schur, her married name. She's an associate head coach at Pitt. She was the first All-American in Louisville history and doing really big things there. It's really her whole journey. She's currently at Pitt. You mentioned Whitney Arian. She's now has her first head coaching job at Bellarmine University here in Louisville, Division I job, and just very proud of her and all the things she's doing. Cassie Stanfill, you may remember her, Jay, from the Louisville days. She's the head coach at Austin Peay University, doing huge things. So yes, I could go on and on. And then I have a lot of former players who are high school coaches, travel ball coaches, equally as important. At that grassroots level and the tone they're setting. And so it's a lot of fun. I think what it's helped do is post-coach-player relationship is just kind of strengthen that bond, because we have that common passion involved in terms of helping people and coaching people.
So, like at convention and things, you run into some of these folks, and I always wondered, because I know my feeling when I run into players that, had played for me and now they're adults, and it's a different relationship. Is it, kind of funny? You ever think about that sometimes, that, or even from their point that here they are, they used to have to do what you were saying, and, maybe they were a little afraid of you, or they get mad at you sometimes. And now here you guys are having a drink somewhere, just hanging out.
Yes. Well said. I think where I see it the most is like players' weddings. When you go to a former player's wedding, and it's just such a fun celebration, and they're so happy, and you're happy for them. But yeah, the stories when you go back to their playing days, their take on the stories of how a practice went and your take of how a practice went, very, very different, very different. Like, well, when you said this, I'm like, oh, I didn't say it like that, or vice versa, or, yeah, they're a lot of fun, that's for sure. But somewhere along the way in all those stories, there's still just a great, mutual love for one another and respect for one another, but also just, a shared experience, which again, when you have shared experiences with people, there's always lessons in there too. Lessons. I mean, I've learned probably more from the players I've coached than any textbook I've ever studied, but just the lessons that they stick with them too. I'll get some sort of a note. I got one about a year ago from a young lady named Lauren Devich, who played at Purdue. She's now a lawyer and 4 kids, and one of her kids plays softball. And she was talking about travel and road trips with these young kids. And she's like, I can hear it in my head, Coach B, like, be on time and be flexible. Like, be flexible. Things aren't going to go perfect. So that is the message I'm constantly saying. Like, it's not going to go perfect. You have to be flexible and be patient and be flexible. That was kind of our 2 things when we traveled then at Purdue. And it just makes me smile and kind of warms my heart. I'm like, well, I guess, first of all, I was glad that was kind of a timeless lesson, because it is a timeless lesson, but that she's now imparting that into her players, it's a lot of fun.
Yes. So you take over the program at Purdue. Did you start that program, Carol? Was it already started?
No, it was a brand new program. And, I was still coming up the ranks. I was the ripe old age of 28 when I took over the program, which probably wouldn't happen today, just a little different time and era. But yes, it was a brand new program, no field, no uniforms, no players, nothing, but an opportunity to start a Big Ten program. And it was really tough for me to leave the University of Michigan and to leave Hutch. We had won back-to-back Big Ten championships, the first 2 Big Ten championships of her career. At the same time, it was just a really great opportunity. And again, starting a program in 1994, 1995 was very different than when you look at a Clemson who started the program, 5-6 years ago, just a different model and different resources and different things. And I'm so happy for John Rittman and that program. If you've never been to that facility, you need to go. It's just a great environment and great facility. But then it was very different. Purdue wanted to play the first year. We weren't playing in the Big Ten, but they wanted to play. And I literally started June 1 and they wanted to have fall ball, in August and September. I'm like, wow, how are we going to get players here? So we had 2 scholarship players that first year, just kind of some oddities. One young lady had committed to Cal Poly, and Cal Poly had dropped their program. And I knew the coach there, Carol Spanks, who's also in the Hall of Fame. And she had called me and said, this young lady, you're not going to believe this, but her grandfather swam at Purdue. Like, she's in LA, but her family has these ties. I'm like, well, we need players. And I trusted her a lot. And so we had 2 scholarship players and the rest were all walk-ons. We had a ginormous tryout at a rec field because our field wasn't ready. And off we went. So, you had mentioned those 21 wins in the first year, Ken. Believe me, we earned every one of those wins because it was a really unique group of players that had to come together quickly. And it was a lot of fun. And then from that point on, we were full Big Ten member and off it went. But yes, a lot of lessons learned there in starting a program when you really have a blueprint and you can start from scratch. What kind of uniforms do you want to wear? What type of equipment do we want? Who are we going to hire as a staff? Like, what's our traditions? What are they going to be? What's our philosophy? So that was really a fun exercise. Also, just a lot of hard work went into just building that foundation. And now, at the time, the facility we had was a nice facility, but the facility they have now that just opened, several years ago is absolutely fantastic. They just hosted the Big Ten championship last year, and I'm so happy for that program to have a facility that really matches the passion, the enthusiasm around that softball program that they have.
So what gave you the confidence to be able to start a program like that at the age of 28 years old?
I think what gave me the confidence was Carol Hutchins. Give me that push, like I had some long talks with her, and, we all get close to our players. You guys do as well. And I remember her saying, these players are always at Michigan are always going to be in your life. You're always going to have those connections, but, every 4 years, all new players. So where do you want to be? Like, you're kind of ready for this next step. And she gave me a little bit of a gentle nudge. And I thought, if I'm going to go be a head coach, I played at Iowa in the Big Ten. I coached in Michigan in the Big Ten. I'm from Iowa. I'm from the Midwest. I just felt like, this really checks a lot of boxes. If you're going to start your career somewhere, why not in the Big Ten as a head coach? And so I'm not sure I was always confident. That's for sure. There was... I was confident in the fact that I knew the game and I knew the Big Ten and I was excited about the opportunity. But boy, that confidence was challenged in the first year when you just had to make a lot of decisions on all the things. But I appreciate the vote of confidence from Carol Hutchins and the nudge.
So after Purdue, you went to Louisville. You were coaching there for a while, and then you became involved in the NFCA as well. How did that kind of come about?
Well, I just, when I was at Louisville, yeah, when I was at Louisville, we really had a lot of success on the field. We won a lot of championships. We went to a lot of the NCAA tournaments. We hosted a lot of NCAA tournaments. It was a lot of fun. And while I was at Louisville, I just felt like, I love what I'm doing. And I love this lane of like one team, one institution, one goal, fighting for the national championship or a conference championship. But I found myself kind of, always interested in what was happening with the sport as a whole. Like, how do we change the rules, and how does recruiting, the calendar work, and what kind of educational, professional development opportunities are there? Like, if I want to get better, I've coached now a long time, like, where do I go to get better? And besides just talking to colleagues. And so I always kind of had just kind of wanted a little bit more while I was still coaching. And so I remember sitting with Margot Yonker, who's a Hall of Famer. She coached at Central Michigan University. I remember sitting with her while I was still coaching at Purdue even, and we were at an NFCA convention, which looked very different than they do now, much smaller, much more intimate. And she said, I think you'd be great. You should really consider a role at the NFCA, like Division I rep, or just get more involved. And I'm like, oh, what does that entail? And she told me about it. She kept following up with me about it. And so I said, sure, one of those nudges of confidence again. So once I got involved, I was so excited because it just really opens up you're able to take off your institutional hat or your travel ball organization hat. And, you still wear those, of course, that's your primary role, but you're able to really take that off and put on your softball hat and say, what do we want our sport to look like in 5 years, 10 years? And what do we need to do now to make sure that happens? And I think back to, whether it's television and the exposure there, a lot of the decisions made to line those things up to make sure our game is fun to watch and fun to play, so people want to gravitate toward it. So that's where the rules come in, and just the things we've done just recently, whether it's a pitch clock or, I could go on and on, video review, just things that are, less timeouts per game. So we keep it moving along, for the fans and for TV and for the players. So we've done I was just always interested in that and got excited about that. And then that led to a lot of involvement, speaking at a coach's clinic or being a convention speaker or whatever it might be. And so I realized that excited me just as much after coaching for 25 years. That excited me. It was the first thing that really excited me as much as coaching for 25 years, and realized I can still be a part of the sport. And now my team is not just one team, one institution. It's anyone who loves softball. And so, our team here at the NFCA is huge, and we serve a lot of people around the organization, and that's a lot of fun.
So, Carol, what exactly does the executive director do in the NFCA? I don't think a lot of people understand that. I'm sure it's probably everything, but just give us a little bit of a kind of some of your duties, if you don't mind.
That is a great question. One that I've always found a little bit challenging to answer, but I'm going to do my best. First of all, what does the CEO of the NFCA do? You wake up every day and your focus is on softball and the sport and the coaches within the sport and the student athletes within the sport. So that's pretty fun. There's a lot of people who wake up every day and have other things that they have to do or on their mind. So the fact that, I work in softball and I work in people it's probably the first way I would answer that question. And then to dig a little deeper, it's really leading the efforts and the relationships with all the people in softball. So whether that's being a bridge with the NCAA and all of our divisions and coaches that are impacted by the NCAA, the NAIA, the NJCAA, the high school federations, all the travel ball organizations, which there's a lot of them right now and growing, which is good. So it's just making sure those relationships and the bridge is there for everyone to make sure they can continue to grow in their own way. I also spend a lot of time visiting with companies around the sport. You think of the Wilsons, the Rawlings, the Mizunos, the places who host a lot of tournaments. Visit St. Pete Clearwater. They want softball teams to come down there and enjoy their facilities. So that's probably been a big part of this role that has expanded tremendously in the 10 years I've been in this role, because softball has grown so much, the exposure has grown so much. There's potential resources that can be had around the sport. And so therefore, there's been a lot more companies who've invested in the sport of softball, which is very exciting. So I spend a lot of my time with official sponsorships, partnerships, giving access to those companies, to the decision makers in softball, so they can all make decisions together and helping to grow the sport. So I also spend a lot of my time with education and professional development. What we talked about a little earlier, like where do coaches go to get better? Well, the answer should be the NFCA. And so we have a variety of virtual education. We have a lot of our in-person events. You mentioned one of them. We got our big convention coming up in in December. And that we've set records the last 2 years for convention. Who knows what will happen this year, but we're on track to continue that trend. Our biggest exhibit
it's in Las
hall
Vegas,
ever.
so it shouldn't be too hard. It's in Las Vegas, so it shouldn't be too hard to get people there.
Yeah, and all direct flights lead to Vegas, don't they? So it's really easy to get to Las Vegas. So yeah, it's a lot of we do a lot of events. We do a lot of the sponsorships. We do a lot of education. And the last thing I'll say, probably spend a lot of our time on is our awards and our recognition. So we're really proud of our scholarship programs for coaches to attend our convention. We're really proud of the NFCA All-American Awards, which are like the North Star because they're voted on literally by the coaches, the entire country. And our Coaching Staff of the Year Awards, the Field of the Year Awards. We do a lot of awards recognition, and we're really proud of that as well. It's the one place where, coaches, we don't like the recognition. We want to give it all to our players, or we just get a little uncomfortable. And at the NFCA, we say, well, this is the place where we can say, well done, and say it publicly. Like, you were voted by your peers as the Coaching Staff of the Year for your division or your region. So we're pretty proud of that too, and proud of all our coaches.
So you had a title change this year. You went from executive director to chief executive officer. What was the reason behind that? Is that something that just helps you to have conversations in the corporate world, or is there something else behind it?
Absolutely nothing else behind it. And the job did not change one bit. Our board of directors and a lot of our coaches that serve in some leadership roles just felt like that particular title, executive director, was a little bit, lack of better terms, outdated, and can be a little confusing. Like executive director can be a little bit confusing. So where CEO seems to be very clear, clear cut, and just more, 2025, so to speak. So it was really just a bylaw change and a title change. Personally, I'm not even used to it yet. I'm getting used to it. It went in effect in January, so it's been, I guess, 10 months. But yeah, it's a little easier to say. I will say that when I'm introducing myself or someone's introducing, just to say CEO. But no change, just more of a modernization of the title, leadership role of the organization.
Yeah, maybe a better descriptor of what it is exactly you do.
Yes.
Carol, with all of that you're doing, I still see that you still get out there and do a little bit of coaching. Some teams will bring you in from time to time. Do you miss that? I mean, I've had the privilege and pleasure of watching you present at an NFCA convention, or not convention, but what do you call them?
The coaching clinics?
Coaching clinics. Thank you, Ken. Duh. Need another cup of coffee, but I've had the pleasure of seeing you present, and took a lot away from what you're doing. Do you miss presenting? Do you miss being on that field, or you just get just enough to keep you happy?
Once a coach, always a coach. There's no doubt. I mean, I still think like a coach. I certainly answer to that title, which I think is the coolest title of all time. I think like a coach, act like a coach. There's no doubt. I think that's helped me in this role. I think it would be really tough to be the NFCA CEO without having a coaching background. You're leading coaches, so it'd be hard to create curriculum and design rules changes, or help with rules changes, or help with just legislative things if you hadn't kind of walked in our coach's shoes. Do I miss it? Of course. You can't spend 25 years of your life coaching and being on the field and interacting without missing it. You can't invest that much and then, in a heartbeat say, oh, I'm just done. I don't miss it. Yes, I do miss that daily interaction with the players. I miss that one team, one goal that we're talking about. Like, you're kind of marching toward a championship journey. But you are so right in that I still have the opportunity to do that. I go out, a lot of local players that still live in the Louisville area that do coach high school ball, travel ball. I'll go out and help them run a practice, just watch their practice, give them feedback, talk to their coaches. I still enjoy that. I do a lot of Zoom calls with teams with various things. So sometimes it's not on the field, but it's more culture things or standards things, or, what do you want your team to look like and why, and with coaching staffs as well. So yes, I still get to, get involved with the coaching aspect of it, which I absolutely love. And at the same time, I just feel like this point in time in my life and along the journey, being able to serve in this role as CEO, my just whole world has expanded. The amount of people that I've been able to interact with at all levels of coaching, and all the company side of things, and all, as I mentioned before, all the organizations, the NCAA, all the travel ball organizations, just feel like that, as we used to call the Rolodex, right? There's no more Rolodex anymore. It's just all in your phone. But the contact list has just really expanded. And I only share that because I feel like I've grown so much because that contact list has expanded. I'm just visiting with people from all walks of life around softball, including USA softball, and being on the selection committee for a short period of time. Just all the different opportunities that have been afforded around the sport have just really helped me grow as a professional, which in turn hopefully helps grow the game.
So, Jay's been around for a long time. I've been a member for nearly 25 years, looking forward to the 25-year award. And I've seen a lot of changes along the way. I think one of the big ones that you've helped to drive has been more involvement in getting more of the travel coaches and the high school coaches and all that. Why was that so important to you rather than just keeping it focused on the college coaches, which is kind of where the NFCA started?
Yeah, I think, there's some coaches associations that do not have high school travel ball members as part of it. And they have all kinds of reasons why. But for us, it's just really important. We all coach. We all have a lot to offer. I know at our coaches clinics, our collegiate coaches are learning just as much from high school travel ball coaches as the high school travel ball coaches are learning from the collegiate coaches. So that is a very, very important part of our organization, because the one thing we take a lot of pride in the sport of softball is the ability to collaborate. And when you grow the game through including grassroots coaches with collegiate coaches with professional coaches, feel like that collaboration only increases. And so we love the fact that if you're interested in coaching high school or any level of softball, that you can be a part of our organization.
Again, last year you guys were in Dallas for the NFCA convention, which is every year it's a huge things for all of these coaches. This year coming up, it's in Las Vegas. So when and why should our listeners be planning on attending? Like, why should you go to the NFCA convention? Give our listeners a little bit of like what happens at this convention for those who've never been.
Well, you've got coach in the title of your podcast, so that means that, a lot of coaches are listening in. So if you're coaching softball and you're a part of softball, the reason you should come to Las Vegas is these are your people. These are your people. Everyone's passionate about softball. Everyone's passionate about coaching softball. And so the energy, I always tell people, you have to feel and experience the convention. It's not just something you show up to and attend. You have to feel it and experience it. And to do that, you have to be there. Just walking around the halls and in all of the rooms and in our mentoring session with all of the legends of the game and all of the rookies of the game, there's just an excitement and an energy around that. The second reason you should come to the convention is it's a terrific place for professional development. The amount of speakers we have, the amount of, as I mentioned before, the mentoring sessions, the softball summit, which is a chance for everyone to get in the same room and talk about the biggest issues of the day. Just there's business meetings, there's pleasure, there's parties, and there's tons of professional development. And on top of all that, this year in Las Vegas, we will have the largest number of companies and the largest number of booths in our exhibit hall. We have we're getting real close to 200 companies in our exhibit show, which has just been unheard of. So you can get a lot of great deals. You can get all of everyone's budget's a little more tight this year. I understand that. So that's a great place to shop and just see the newest technology out there. So it's everything you could dream of and more. If you're a softball coach and you just want to be around some of the best in the game, but also just the energy and excitement of networking with like-minded people, it's definitely the place to be.
Yeah, I looking at those booths and going through there all the time, I remember
I always had to try to hide it from my wife, so I had to spread it out across a few different credit cards. So besides the convention itself, what other education and networking opportunities are you offering?
Well, throughout the entire year, we have a year-round mentoring program where we match 3 people: a pinnacle member, someone who's been around a long time, a mid-tier member, someone who's been coaching 5 to 15 years, and then a rookie, if you've been coaching less than 5 years. And we have a year-round mentoring program. It's one of the most fun things I've been a part of. We've had it now for the last probably 5 years. And so it's just a way to connect people and mentor throughout the entire year. That's one of my favorites. You mentioned it. We have our coaches clinics. These are 8 regional clinics across the country. They're short. They're like a short mini version of the convention, where we bring in collegiate coaches. The majority of the audience is high school travel ball coaches, and it's a chance to learn and grow and also network in a shorter time frame. And we have virtual education on every topic you possibly could want. So we have virtual education surrounding, pitching, hitting, catching, defense, you name it. We've got a lot of virtual education and webinars as well. So if you want to learn something, if you join the NFCA and get into your coach's box, which is the back end of our website, kind of behind where you have your membership, there's everything and anything you could want to learn about the game, practice plans within that coach's box.
Awesome.
Yeah, and don't forget the National Fastpitch Coaches College. I love that.
Yes, the NFCCs. I agree with you, Ken. They're one of my favorite things I've ever done as an instructor. They're now one of my favorites as the CEO. And the reason they've become some of my favorites is you get the classroom time, but you also have the on-field time. So you can bring it to life. You kind of talk about the strategies and watch some videos and really kind of hash through whatever the topic is, if it's hitting, whatever it might be. And then you get to go to the field and have players there and watch the instructors coach and teach them and bring it to life.
Absolutely. And I have to share this one. I think you were one of the instructors there. I think it was you and Cindy and Hutch down in Florida. And it was like, if you ever wondered what it was like to play for Hutch, we went out to the field and everybody did they went through all the defensive stuff first. And I've told the story before, but I just love telling it. Go through all the defensive stuff and everything. And they said, okay, now we're going to go to the offensive part. So the girls over there who were just volunteering to help out with this, wasn't anything, that they had to do. They were just there out of the goodness of their hearts. The players at the school start getting their helmets and their bats out, and Hutch is just steaming, and she's over there. And I was standing fairly close to her, and she goes, "If this is my practice, they would have already had those out."
Sounds right.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
So a little more insight on those. So looking back on everything from the time you were a player, from a grad assistant, how do you think the game has changed?
Oh, the game has changed a lot, and it's changed in all good ways, which is why you can turn on the television now from February, March, April, and May, or your streaming choice, and watch softball because it's in such high demand, because it's such a fun, fast-paced game. But I will say how the game has changed. We went from big picture stuff. We went from a white ball that you could pick up in the third inning and shake it and rattle it and hear what was happening. There's no way you could hit it. It was just like falling apart. So the offense wasn't, if you were a 300 hitter when I played in college or shortly thereafter, you were something. Now it's a 400 hitter. There's just more offense in the game. So we went from the white ball to a yellow ball, changed the core, made the ball more lively, not unsafe, just definitely more lively. There's a lot of standards around that, studies around that. Moving the pitching plate. It was 40 feet forever. So we had 40 feet in the white ball. And so a lot of 2-1 games, 1-0 games. And now we have 43 feet, a yellow ball. The core is better. And now, our best pitchers can still win, but they might win 5-4, 6-3. It's more fun for the players, the fans, the television audience, the coaches. It could go on and on. So that's, I think the first thing we did was help the offensive part of our game quite a bit over the years. And I think taking the tried and true traditions of our sport, like we don't have a clock. We're not like basketball and football where there's a clock constantly. But the games could get long, as you both know, because of lots of timeouts or lots of almost gamesmanship, stepping in, stepping out, all of those things that just took a lot of time. And for our game to be television friendly, it has to fit into some pockets and windows. I mean, that's just the name of the game. Now that I've been on the broadcasting side and learning more about that from ESPN, it's really important. So our coaches and our leadership in the sport have been open to making those changes so that we are more, continue to grow the game and the audience to a whole new group of people. So we've had a lot of rules changes with number of timeouts and the pitch clock, and we want to get it right. So we've used video review, which sometimes challenges our time constraints, but we've gotten a lot better at that. So just feel like our stadiums are getting bigger. The amount of coaches that can coach on a college campus, that's enhanced. It used to be one, maybe two coaches in a staff meeting, and now you can have 15 if you have a player development and a video person and 4 coaches. And so just the amount of staff and resources going into our sport, which ultimately helps the student athletes, let alone the rev share, the NIL. We're just thrilled that women's sports are in that conversation as well, along with softball. So there's just, it's grown tremendously. It's been so much fun to be a part of, to just watch the sport elevate. And I feel very, one of the biggest responsibilities that I wake up with every day, or that I think about every day, is, how can we keep softball a priority sport on campus with all the revenue and all of the expenses now around college athletics? You don't want to be the sport that's kind of on the low end there that, we don't need softball anymore. We don't want that to happen. So how can we keep softball a priority sport, and what can we do to keep the sport thriving? And those are the questions I asked every day, and really wake up every day to continue to make those things happen. Because if our sport is where it is now, 20 years from now, we're in trouble. We have to keep elevating it, keep making it exciting, and keep making things happen.
Well, you've certainly done a good job with that, because you look at those ESPN ratings every spring, and they keep growing and growing, and more and more people are falling in love with the sport, even people that have nothing to do with it directly.
Carol, just one last question for you here.
Oh,
go ahead, Carol. Sorry.
No, I just agree with you, Ken, in that the audience just being on television, and the exposure and the high level of student athlete, the quality of athlete that's now playing softball, and we're able to showcase that on television. I agree. When I'm traveling and we just start talking or striking up a conversation, or just they'll, see something with softball. I mean, so many people that have nothing to do with softball, like, oh my gosh, I watched the whole month of May. I never turned my station off softball. And I'm like, this is great. Yes, the amount of people we've been able to touch to help grow the game has been tremendous.
So Carol, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I just have one more question for you. That's it. Again, we really appreciate we appreciate everything you've done for softball, and Ken and I can both say what you've done for both of us.
Yeah.
You've been a big influence with us too. Just real quick one. Do you have any hidden talents to share? You'd like to share, or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Hidden talents. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess that I'm just really musical as well. I play the piano, and I love to play the piano. I love to sing. I don't sing as much outside of the shower now as I used to, but I used to, be very, did that a lot, singing. And I played the trumpet for a long time. So I just very musical, was a musical family, still love to play the piano and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's probably just kind of a fun fact.
Very cool. We'll have to see if we can get a piano over there at convention, get you up there.
I'm ready.
All righty. Great. Well, Carol, thank you so much for joining us. We know you've got a little time constraint here. We appreciate all the time you spent with us. So this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for all you both do to grow the game.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. Thanks to all of you for listening and the kind words you've been sharing with us. If you like what you've been hearing, please remember to give us a like, leave a comment, and share this podcast on your social media channels. Make sure you never miss an episode by following us on your favorite podcast platform as well. If you're so inclined, you can also give us a great review on Apple Podcasts to help more people find us. On behalf of the From the Coach's Mouth podcast, have a great rest of your week and weekend.